So it's nice to see that most people are applying later, because this is all about what you can do if you're applying next year, basically. So all of the things that you can set in the wheels that you can set in motion, the things that you can do, and how to basically start setting yourself up to make the process as as kind of smooth sailing as possible, but more importantly, to give you the highest chance of succeeding. So that's just me. So I've done this process twice as a doctor and then again as a dentist. I did it because I went down a field called maxillofacial surgery, and if you've not been on the YouTube channel, I talk a little bit about my story of how I got to that. But essentially, you have to do both degrees to go into that surgical specialty. But during that time, because I've had so much experience applying, I started teaching other people, and that is when this company FutureDoc started, and we've had over 90% success every single year. Last year was 93% with the people that we help on our on their medicine and dentistry applications. So enough about me, but that's kind of what we're going to teach. So we talked about when you're applying. So most people, like I say, it's good to see that most people are applying next year. And just before we move on, as a little gift that I want to give to everybody, I've just launched a brand new course for parents. So if you are a parent, even a teacher as well, because it's basically how you can guide somebody who you are helping to get into medicine. So if you're a teacher, or if you are a parent, or if you want to give this to your parent to show them how they can help you with your medicine or your dentistry application, there's a QR code there. It's completely free. There's absolutely no catches. There's nothing at all. It's, like I say, it's completely honest, just because we get so many questions from parents about how they can help their child and whatnot. And I kind of felt like it was only fair, because I kept sending them the same 2 or 3 resources. I just put it into a neat little pile and make a course specifically for parents. So have, just like I say, feel free to scan the QR code, send it to parent, guardian, teacher, anyone who you want, and they can just sign up. It's about 2 to 3 hours. Probably, I think it's about 2.5 hours long, and you're able to watch it at double speed, so you can halve that time. Right, so let's have, so in the chat, I mean, I said ask questions, save questions for later, so I will read questions in the chat towards the end. But for now, in the chat, could I just get an idea of what is your biggest concern about the medical or dental school application? So general concerns, so any particular area, any broader thing, just that will help me understand where to focus in for you guys. So in the chat, whenever you're ready. So interviews, interview prep, UCAT score, the grades needed, so eligibility, UCAT, the weighting of the UCAT and GCSEs, not applying to the uni that have the best chances of getting into. Okay, so university selection, personal statements, interviews, UCAT. Okay, well, the good news is that we're going to talk about all of that. So let's move on. So let's say, and again, anytime when I write medicine, you can also read dentistry there as well. So let's do a little poll again. So let me just find, okay, so how difficult do we, on a scale of 1 to 10, do we think, let's see, on a scale of 1 to 5, sorry, so 1 being the easiest, 5 being the hardest, how difficult do you think it is to get into medicine or dentistry this year? And the second question to that is the application getting more or less competitive? So people think it's about a 4 out of 5 difficulty, and pretty much everybody says that it's getting more competitive. And yeah, I think, yeah, so 4 to 5 is probably about fair. I would say that it is definitely getting more competitive, that's for sure. We're seeing that, and I'm going to share some of the stats with you in a moment. There is no doubt that it's the most competitive it's ever been, and that's for a number of reasons. The first thing is we had a lot of applications go up in COVID, but we did have a corresponding increase in the number of spots. Now, the there's normally a cap on the number of places, and it's the same for dentistry, that there's a cap on how many places that people offer, because both the GMC and the GDC, so the General Medical Council and the General Dental Council, the regulating body, need to make sure that there's a certain standard and that we have a certain quality of applicants or of students coming out and graduating as doctors and dentists. So over time, so over the COVID, they actually removed that cap. But then, so because medicine and dentistry and basically healthcare was in the spotlight, the number of people applying went up. However, once the COVID kind of peak went back down, and you can see here in the 2023 stats, the cap got reinstalled as well. So it went back down, but not to the levels of pre-COVID. If you'd have looked before COVID, this would have probably been in the 24,000. But it's not gone back down to those pre-COVID levels. However, the number of places have. So, there are things like the medical apprenticeship, which is still kind of up in the air. We're not exactly sure where it's going to go. So really, still the traditional route through degrees in both medicine and dentistry are getting more competitive. And so that is why we need to really make sure that we're planning out the process and taking an intelligent approach towards it. So let's start with why. So I always think it's really important to understand why we're doing this. It's something that when you write your personal statement, you will need to communicate when you're writing that, and whatever the variation of the personal statement is going to be. But you'll be asked about it directly at interview, but also it's just a very important thing to know. Your why is what keeps you going through this whole process. So in the chat, I'd love to hear, and you don't have to go into too much detail, and obviously share as much as you're comfortable with, but I would love to hear your why for going into either medicine or dentistry. Rewarding career. I did work experience. I've lost that one. I did work experience during year 11 and got to experience both, and like the manual dexterity of dentistry better. Fair enough. Diverse and exciting career and job opportunities. Love to understand etiology. Sorry, I've lost that one again. Love to understand etiology of disease. Working as a team to provide healthcare and be in a leadership role and patient interaction. Lots of good buzzwords there that you've some boxes that you've ticked with that one. I like to be able to provide. Sorry, I like being able to provide. To help people and the ability to learn every day. Sorry, every time a new one comes, the one I'm reading gets shoved off screen. I like to help out less fortunate people with rewarding results. Lifelong learning. Have a broad yet detailed understanding of the function of the human body and be able to use this knowledge to improve people's lives. Great. So yeah, some very good reasons. And it's really important to understand the why, because one day you are going to be a doctor or a dentist, and to me it's still one of the most rewarding careers out there. Yet obviously a lot of stuff is in the media at the moment about pay. Now this is less so with dentistry than it is with medicine. I'm very optimistic that something will happen, something does have to give, and for the reward people do have to be remunerated fairly. So for the effort and sacrifice, I mean, people have to be remunerated fairly. But regardless of that, I think people do get focused on money, and sometimes people underestimate the importance of doing something meaningful and something that people are proud of and really, really enjoy as their career. And that is something that you can't really put a price on. And also that is something that people, when you think over, if we're getting a bit more philosophical about it, and you think about what your impact on this earth is over the course of your life, I think it's hard to argue that somebody who is in healthcare helping others can't justify that they contributed in a meaningful way to society. But also, I think it is just one of those ways one of the best ways to have life satisfaction is to be in service to others. And these jobs kind of have all of these things baked in, and they're also careers that kind of don't just encourage but demand that you continually grow and are continually learning and picking up things, and they're exposed to all different kinds of people. I think philosophically, again, these are the ingredients that make a recipe to a very fulfilled life. So inherently, before, even if you're kind of on the most standard medical or most standard dental path, these are things that you compare that to other careers where people have, sometimes some careers have, people have very little satisfaction, and it's just a paycheck. And even at the kind of most standard end of these careers, you have that, like I say, inherently as part of the career. So that's why I think they're still, in 2023, some of the best careers that you can go into. And they, in fact, I remember reading a Forbes article about the most meaningful jobs, or the things that people find the most satisfying. And out of the top 10, I think it was something like 6 or 7 were all medical jobs. They're all just different specialties within medicine or dentistry, or research around medicine and dentistry. So yeah, really, really worthwhile. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the application timeline now. I'm going to update this one, but the BMAT is no longer. So it's just all about the UCAT, and for the grads amongst us, all about the GAMSAT as well. But really, what I want you to understand from this is that if you're starting medical or dental school in, let's use some imaginary numbers. So let's say you wanted to start medical or dental school in 2027. So you would, in September 2027, that would mean that you would need to submit your application in September 2026. And really, you should be applying, so you should be beginning your preparation for applying in September 2025. So for those of you who are submitting your application next September, so September 2024, to start in 2025, you should have started, and you should be really getting your skates on now. And especially if you're a grad, this is really the time to start really upping your game and really going for it, because you have a lot of things that happen here. And you can see it can look quite overwhelming, but I'm actually going to divide it into 4 distinct phases for you, which will help compartmentalize this and make it much more manageable and bite-sized, if you will. So that's the reason that we're talking about this now, because if you haven't started, no matter whether you're grad, undergrad, it's time to get your skates on, because we really need to start getting things in place and setting wheels in motion. Yeah, I think the mantra that I always have, and it is tried and tested, and the reason that, like I say, the students on our program and the ones that I teach have such success, is because they live by this. And it's the sooner you start, the more time you put in, the better your chances of success. And that means that you build a stronger application that firstly helps you get in, like just generally get a place. But then after that, you kind of go to the next rung, which is, where do you really, really want to go? What's your aspirational university? You can, if you start early enough and prepare well enough, you can be in some of the most competitive universities if you play the game properly. So yeah, it's just all about that. So this is what I'm going to talk about now, and this is a video. If you search the 4 phases of med school application on my YouTube channel, that is where you'll find this. Just out of interest, in the chat, could I just get an idea of just a Y for yes or an N for no? Are you guys aware of / subscribe to my YouTube channel? Yeah, so mostly yes. Okay, great. Oh, in fact, everybody. Okay, fantastic. Well, someone recently. Okay, well, welcome. So yeah, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about here, we do have some videos on the YouTube channel. So this one is how to compartmentalize it into phases. And have I put the phases here? Okay, yeah. So let's kind of go back from. In fact, no. Let's work forward. So building is kind of where, if you're applying next year, is where you are now. So this is all about setting the wheels in motion, and that's what I talk about with work experience. Is that one thing will lead to another, and that will lead to another, and what you end up having is this branching set of experiences where you do something and then you get another opportunity from it. You do something else, and then before you know it, students that we've just had the UCAS window. So the UCAS, the submission window for medicine and dentistry is the start of September to mid-October. And we've just had people who have kind of put in their final touches on their application. And the comparison between those people that we've been helping for, for the last year, between now and how they were at this time last year is incredible. And it's such a transformation because we take them from, they take themselves with us. We see them go from, no experience to, they do a few things, and like I say, they lead to more experiences. And before you know it, these things have accumulated over time. And yeah, they just are the real deal. And I'm going to talk about, the whole talk is about what's the secret, right? And I'm going to tell you the secret towards the end. And there's kind of clues along the way for what this secret is. But yeah, that stage is all about CV building, essentially. Then we need to move on to preparation for the exams. And again, the BMAT is no longer, so we don't have to worry about that so much. But it's about laying the groundwork for the exams to make sure that we're ready and we can, again, compartmentalize. So it's really important because a lot of people, some people will be in full-time jobs, which is great because, well, although you're probably slightly more occupied with your time, it's a lot more predictable. Whereas when students have uni exams, or if they're in university, or if they're doing their A-levels, we do have to work around these things because we do need a good runway of preparation to do well on, if you're undergrad, the UCAT exam, and if you're grad, maybe both the GAMSAT and the UCAT exam. And that's a big part of taking for grads, which is a 34 applications to 1 place success ratio, and turning them into a 90+%, because we're thinking about how we're doing these exams and how we're giving ourselves the best chance of scoring highly. So the thing that I want to kind of stress with this whole division into 4 phases is that if you take each of these at a time, you can compartmentalize them, put all your focus on them, and then you can either complete them and forget about them or have them on autopilot. So with your work experience, you can have your shadowing arranged, and then all you need to do, you can forget about it then, it's going to happen. You just need to worry about the date when you have to turn up. If you're doing volunteering, you can just have it so that you're doing, a few hours every so often, and you don't really need to think about it anymore. You just turn up every, whatever it is, fortnight or whatever you do, and then it's on autopilot. The same with any other work experience that you're doing. Same with any extracurriculars. We want to just get them so that they're low effort, low mental aptitude that you need to put into them, and they're just happening by themselves. So these are all kind of preparation phases. Then it all kicks off typically around the kind of spring/summer of the part before you're applying. So this is where you might have arranged your shadowing experience, and that's what I mean by work experience, and we'll talk a bit about that later. But you might actually do the shadowing experience at that point. We need to sit the actual exams. We need to do our UCAS submission. We need to write our personal statement, because the personal statement is a bit of you need to time it right. It's a bit like catching a flight. You don't want to arrive too early to the airport, but you don't want to miss your flight, right? It's that as you're accumulating experience, you don't want to start writing your personal statement to the point where, well, you've got a really important shadowing placement, which is going to be a big chunk of it coming up, but also you don't want to leave it so late that you've got very little time. And we always get people on the program who come to join us with a few weeks to go before their personal statement submission date, and they want help. And you can help people in a short period, but obviously, like everything, the quality and the outcome will be much better the sooner you start and the more time you put into it. So this is where all of this stuff is happening. And then, so for those who submitted their application this September just gone, now we're in this stage, and it's all about interview preparation. Now, I want to press upon you and in fact, there's a video that I released recently about myths and misconceptions. Now, what I want to impress upon you is that there are probably two bits where the med school and dental school application is equally overvalued and underestimated. Now, with the UCAT, it's a very important exam. I'm not denying that at all. But people think that it's all about the UCAT, and that is a mistake. We need to do well in it, and we need to get our foot in the door, but that is not our sole focus. The areas that we talk about, and I think I can share a document with you later, which is kind of like the FutureDoc proven process, as we call it, and it shows all the areas that we need to focus on, like the 5 key areas. And in fact, I'll tell you what, there's a video on here. The video on this web page will tell you where to, what the 5 key areas of focus are. Now, so with the UCAT, you do need to score well, and that is something that gets your foot in the door, but that's all it does. It will get your foot in the door. It doesn't guarantee you a place at medical school. Everything as a whole, or dental school for that matter, everything as a whole, and it's the full package that makes people choose to whether they select them and offer them a place. So we need to make sure that we have, like I said, great work experience, a really outstanding personal statement, choosing the right universities based on your individual strengths and weaknesses. And then it comes to interviews. Now, the other massive misconception is that interviews is simply something that you need to prepare for in the 2 weeks before. You just learn the answers and then you go and deliver them, and that's it. And it's not about that. The interviews is the culmination of all of this other stuff, mainly the time that you've been putting in this area specifically. But so this is where you go and show that you have been working towards this, and you are the real deal, and you are the kind of person that they should offer a place. So the contrast to that is that what people think is that they'll go, okay, just smash out the UCAT, get a good score, get in front of the interview panel, spend a couple of weeks preparing, and then that's it, bada bing, bada boom sort of thing. That isn't that is. So what we see every year is people who come to us who are reapplying, and they come for our help because they have got 4 interviews and not a single offer, and it's because they've tried to hack the process, or they've not really given its due attention. So that's kind of how to avoid those traps. It's all about becoming rather than trying to blag it or trying to tick boxes. So like I said, I'll save questions till the end. So let's do, in fact, I'll tell you what, I'll do a poll, and at the same time, if anyone wants to ask any questions, I'll take a quick pause to do some questions. So let me just go back. Okay, so let's launch this. So what's the most important, so how important is the UCAT? Sorry, that's a specific one about the UCAT. Okay, just give me a moment. I've launched it. Sorry, I've launched the wrong poll. I've got a different poll. So, okay, I'll finish that one. I'll quickly publish the results. So, and if while you're doing this, if you want to put some questions in the chat, or if you want to unmute and ask them, that's also fine. So let me end this and share the results. And I think you're right. It's important, or like reasonably important, but not the number one most important. I think that is a bit of a trap or a trick question, so to speak. Now, this is the one that I originally wanted to launch. What is the most important? It's the most important element of the med school application. Okay, so I'll give you another, we've got about 60% that have answered. I'll give you another 10 seconds. and then I'll go through some of these questions that are in the chat now. Okay, so I'll show you, we've got a pretty even spread, and that's right, because it's almost, again, this is almost a bit of a trick question. There aren't any particular, it's like saying to somebody, you know, what's the most important organ? Your brain, your heart, your lungs? Well, you know, you could argue that there's like a level of importance, but you're not going to get very far without all of them. So it is a bit of a trick question in that they're all equal, they're all very important. Some have more weighting than others, but that depends on the university. So we need to make sure that we're thriving in all areas. So let's have a look. What are there any specific hours of work experience that are required for certain medical schools and university? If so, how much is required? So I recommend checking out the Warwick guidance, and they're for grads, but they're the most kind of rigorous and high demanding of all of the work experience guidance. And basically, if you're good for them, then you're probably good for everywhere else. So that's a good one that I'd recommend checking out. How many mock interviews ideally should a candidate have before sitting a real one? You know, that's a kind of how long is a piece of string question. It's really about until you feel comfortable to become well practiced but not rehearsed. Rehearsed is when you repeat, so you essentially just reel off what was I trying to say here? So you've memorized some bits and spiels that you want to crowbar into situations. Once you can get from the point where you just know the points that you want to touch on and you're kind of feeling confident, that's probably the right amount of time. You can't overdo mocks. So I mean, that is really in the extreme, but you just want to have that nice balance of feeling confident and well prepared. Is your medicine course, is your interview course applicable for medicine as well as dentistry? Yeah, it's applicable for both. The BMAT isn't happening anymore. Will it be now harder to get into medical school? That's a good question. So I'm not sure, to be completely honest, because some of the universities are yet to announce what they're doing in place of the BMAT. So I think that when a university probably adopts an exam for the first time, you probably will have a little bit more of kind of, while they're trying to establish what exactly their cutoffs are and their understanding, you might, it's one of those things that you could maybe benefit from the confusion sometimes. Sometimes it might be a bit risky to bank on that. So it's very tricky, and we need to see where the cards fall for now as to what's going to happen. But yeah, watch, like I say, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, just follow that and turn on notifications so that you don't miss any of the videos, and we'll be putting stuff out. Out of interest, so another Y for yes, N for no. Does anyone, is anyone on our newsletter? Do you subscribe to the newsletter? Because that's where we do a lot of news and up-to-date information as well. Okay. So didn't know it existed. So yeah, if you go that page that I showed you before, if you go there and go to the bottom, there's a little bit that it gives you the I'll post the link again. So if you go there, you can go to the bottom, you can subscribe to the newsletter. Okay, lovely. So moving on. So it's all about becoming. It's becoming the kind of person that will make you a good doctor or dentist. As I alluded to before, it's not about ticking boxes, trying to blag your way into things and trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. It's about being, so that when, you know, I sit on interview panels, when someone walks in the room and they are the real deal, you can just tell, and it's kind of that so good they can't ignore you thing. You can just tell that someone is like, they're just a great candidate and they really deserve their place. And the difference between that and someone who you can see is trying to just kind of paint a picture that they're that person, but they really haven't done the work or put in the time or just learned what they need to learn to present themselves as a good medical or dental candidate, then it's night and day. And I can tell you, you can tell very quickly with these things. So don't think of anymore of trying to convince, try and become. So let's not talk about traits, but essentially we talked about these. So work experience. So I would recommend the quickest way to get up to speed with work experience is to watch this video. So if you can find that thumbnail on the channel, it's if you just search work experience on the channel, it will talk about all these things, how to's, where to look, what balance to get, how often. It's like the full prescription of work experience. So I recommend checking that out. I wouldn't say it's the full prescription of work experience, that's probably a bit overselling it, but it's yeah, it will give you a very good idea. Then we've got the UCAT, like I said, so we can just take these in quick fire. So the 3-step plan for UCAT for 3,000 plus. So like, again, this is just the basic building blocks for what we do at FutureDoc. And every year we have, like I said, we have people who come to us and who didn't get in for whatever reason, and they come to us for help second time round, or well, I say second time round. So we've had people who've had up to, I think the most we've ever had is someone who's had five failed attempts by themselves, and then they've come to us and we've got them in on the 6th. But typically we get people who've had 1 or 2 failed attempts by themselves, and then they've got like a 2,300 in the UCAT, which is pretty much the bottom decile, maybe this year. Yeah, it's a bottom decile probably, or there or thereabouts. And then we've taken them from having that score a couple of years in a row to a 3,000 plus, which is not only the top decile, it's like the top 5%, 3%, depending on the year. So these methods are really working, and the things that you should pay attention to. But 3,000 is a great way, a great number to aim for, because it helps you take control of the application for sure. And this is kind of a very rough plan for how we do it. We just had questions, so we'll skip that for now. I'll do another round of questions at the end. Then, like I said, so crunch time is the bit where we, like that summer where we're putting everything together. So we're probably completing the work experience. Maybe we've been preparing for the exams. Maybe it's time that we sit them. We need to get our personal statement together and a corresponding tutor reference, very important. University choices are such an important part of it, so underestimated for how much it contributes to the medical and dental school application. And then we put it all together with a nice little bow on top, and we submit that to UCAS. So UCAS, for those of you who don't know, is the Universities and Colleges Admission Service. It's basically the portal that has all of the public universities. There are private medical schools, but the fees are ridiculously higher than those of normal, let's say normal, of state-funded medical schools and dental schools. In fact, there are no private dental schools that I'm off the top of my head that I can think of. But anyway, so uni selection is really important, and this video here, again, just a thumbnail to look out for, it's about choosing your medical school, but it helps you understand in terms, we've got a dental equivalent as well. But yeah, choosing the right medical school or dental school to apply to is such an important factor, and there are so many variables that you need to think about. And often, I was saying how people come to us who've failed a few times. Often this is the big difference. It's about looking at this person with this set of strengths, this set of weaknesses, these boxes ticked, these boxes not ticked, and working out which puzzle this fits into, or which piece this person is best to apply to because of their individuality. So it's, if you look at any YouTube comments I get, it's like, I've got this, I've got these GCSEs, I've got these A-levels, where should I apply? And it's such a shallow question in that regard, in that I can't give you a list. You can't give me one variable and say, where should I apply with this? It's looking at the student as a whole package. And we've got a whole, I mean, this selection process when I do it with my students is so detailed and takes so long that it's really, it's so in depth that it's really hard to explain simple answers to simple questions like, where do I go with these GCSEs? Okay, anyway, so if you want some of these resources that we talked about today, if you want to go to the website, if you go on, let me just put it's the FutureDoc website, and if you go on, I'll put it in the chat now, so just futuredoc.com. If you go to, I think it's now on resources, so there's a new tab actually we just launched this week that says resources, and then you just find free resources, or maybe it's under courses and free resources, but it's there anyway, and you'll be able to find them. And yeah, you've got a few things. You've got a med school, and we're just about to do a dental school guide, and all sorts of things that are going to help you with your application. So, as we said, don't underestimate the interview. So we've got loads of interview help on there if you want to have a look. We've got playlists and all sorts of things dedicated to it. But as we said at the start, the journey to medical and dental school is long, and it's all about the amount of time that you prepare. So if you want some help, we have that program that I was talking about where I teach students, and that has a really good success rate. It's application only, so you have to submit an application, and we will have an interview with you. But don't worry if you're feeling like, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to get on something like that. Our program's very, very successful, and it's down to the way that we teach. So really, the interview and the application is about really whether people have the right attitude. We want to see that people are going in for the right reasons, and they're people that we want to work with. So that's more around attitude and motivations for medicine that we test on. So if you feel like you want to check that out, you're welcome to. And again, I'll pop the link in the chat for that. When is the earliest one can apply? I would, again, like I say, I would recommend if you're submitting your application in September 2024, so next September, I would do it right away, because we need to, like I say, we should spend about a year preparing, and we're kind of now into the kind of 10-month period. So it's fine. There's still plenty, you can catch up easily on that, but we do need to get our skates on if we're applying next year. So if you're, Sathya, in answer to your question, if you're starting medical school in 2025, that means you're submitting your application September 2024, and then so you should start now. However, if you're submitting your application in September 2025 to start in September 2026, then you should start with us in September 2024. So submit an application. So next September is fine. I mean, you can, take some of these things and start setting the wheels in motion, but come back to us next September, this coming September 2024. Okay, so no special guest today, unless you consider me special, but I don't. But so any questions? Let's take some questions in the chat. If anyone wants to unmute, you're also welcome to do that. And we can discuss anything that you want to, really. So how can I stand out in my interview? So I guess the kind of thing that we were talking about. So really, I think it was once we talked about becoming is probably where, this talk is called The Secret to, and it's not to do with any law of attraction to bring it to manifesting medicine into your life. It's about you going out there and getting it, right? But the secret really is, and the same advice that I'd give for how to stand out at an interview. It's about becoming. It's about elevating yourself to the kind of person that would, that elevating yourself to the kind of person that is the real deal. And if you want some help to really become that kind of person that stands out at medical school, at medical school interviews, that we've got a version of that one-on-one program that you can apply to get some mock interviews and to get some practice and to get all of the materials that you need to build your knowledge to become that kind of person. So there's still time to do that for the interviews. Obviously, again, like I say, the earlier you start, the more time you put in, the better. But if you start a little bit later, it just means that you have to make up the time, but a bit more intensively. But if you really want it, that's the kind of work that's needing to be done to get into med school. Is there an updated list of the GEM courses available, including Manchester and Cumbria for 2025 entry? Yeah, we can do that. That's no problem. We do. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. The points that are given to students living and then students in certain locations that are used to rank students, how important are they when considering where to apply? Yeah, so if you're, for example, if you're in Essex and you want to apply to Anglia Ruskin, in the east of England, you want to apply to Anglia Ruskin, then that's quite significant, and it will add enough points, and that can sometimes be the difference. So if you're in Lancaster, for example, you get special preference for UCLan. So there are areas where you do get local preference, and they nurture local applicants, and take advantage of that, because however people see it, at the end of the day, if you want to get a medical school place, why not take advantage of the advantages that you have? There's that book called Unfair Advantages, and it's like, basically the point of the book is that anyone who's succeeded in life has usually taken advantage of whatever they have in front of them that helps them stand out, or that they have access to that others don't. And the point is that it's unfair, but the other point is that basically everybody, no matter what situation you're in, you have some sort of unfair advantage. Even if it's like you have very little privilege and that makes you extra hungry, it's almost that hunger that is your advantage. It's like there's always something that you can use to your advantage that will help you kind of get where you want to get. It's an interesting concept, but always take advantage of your unfair advantages. So what uni do I study at? So King's I went to, and then Cardiff before that. Is there a summer program? So I would look for, Sati, if you've got a year a year before you're even going to start, I would look at some of the summer internship programs that they have for the universities. They're great places to look, for sure. What GCSE and A levels would be the best to ensure you get into the best medical schools? Of course, the best, the higher the grades, the better. There's no disadvantage to having low grades. I have extenuating circumstance when I applied this year. How would this help? Very difficult to say, based on just without any context. But you can speak to the universities directly. That's any questions like that. Speaking to the medical admissions offices are going to be the best people to help you and give you a clear answer as to how to proceed given the circumstances. Okay, so what should we be doing for super curricular, and what about volunteering? So I would recommend that you watch that video that I talked about before, because that kind of outlines what's good, what's not so good, where to put your focus. So could you talk about other possible ways of getting into medical school? Always good to know all the routes and how each one works. Okay. The speech bubbles covering stuff up. Okay. Well, it depends what you mean, because there are several routes. There's obviously the kind of standard route of going through A levels and going through the undergraduate course. There's the graduate route, which is significantly more competitive. So anyone who's thinking, oh, I'm going to go into and do a degree and then I'm going to get into medicine after, just bear in mind that you're making it much more difficult going that way. It's doable, and for some people it makes sense, because people, I have one of my patients the other day was telling me about her son who got a place at medical school but felt like he wasn't sure enough yet, or wasn't mature enough or ready, so he went and did a chemistry degree, and then he's going to see after his chemistry degree whether it's still something he wants to do, because it's not a decision to take lightly. And if you need that time to be sure, then yeah, that makes perfect sense. But generally, people who are trying to be tactical, who know that it's what they want to do, going the graduate route is much harder. So definitely something to bear in mind. You have the foundation courses, and foundation courses are not all built the same. So there's a 6-year foundation course where the first year is bringing you up to speed on biology and chemistry and all the other sciences that you need to help with medicine. So there are 2 types of foundation courses. There are ones like Nottingham, where it's for people who did the right subjects but didn't get the right grades. So it's just to kind of bolster their skills. Then you've got ones like Cardiff and Manchester, which are foundation years for people who performed well academically, but they didn't do the right subjects, so didn't do biology or chemistry. You've got access to medicine courses. In fact, we just did a video on that recently on YouTube about all the access to medicine stuff. You've got, what else? Yeah, I'd say that's the majority of them. Of course, you've got international applications, which are more competitive, but they are kind of a subset of all of these. Okay. How to decide which Sutton Trust Summer School University to apply to? Which Sutton Trust Summer School University to apply to? Do your research and work out which one you like the sound of more. Yeah, it's difficult for me to give a good answer to that, because it's very, very niche. How many extracurriculars do you need? It's not about quantity. It's not about quantity. It's about quality. So it's more about the traits you develop and what you get out of them. Let's see how many more questions we've got. Okay, a lot of questions coming in. Do you provide any plans for GAMSAT? Yeah, so our GAMSAT training is starting this month. In fact, in a couple of weeks. So yeah, we'll basically be training people thoroughly from now until March, when the exam is. And yeah, again, one of the other facets of why the program's effective is that we get people a good GAMSAT score. Let's see. Would I need extracurricular as a postgrad because I work full time? You need something. Extracurriculars is not just about like achievements. It's about well-roundedness and showing that you can juggle. You have a stress outlet for a difficult career. So it's not just about ticking boxes. So extracurriculars are more to kind of show that you are, like I say, a well-rounded person that's developing traits. Do you think an EPQ would be beneficial? Yes, especially if you're applying to academic universities and things like Oxford and Cambridge. Yeah, they like those sorts of things. Could you please elaborate on become the kind of person? So when I say becoming the kind of person, it's that so let's say, for example, if I had a performance for, let's say, guitar coming up and I don't play guitar, the difference between like learning the song that I have to play on stage and just fumbling my way through it, and let's say if, I don't know, this is just an analogy off the top of my head. So the difference between becoming a great guitarist and then going to perform on stage, or just learning a song and then performing that song on stage, is that if anything goes off plan on the song, you would be stuffed, basically, because you only know that narrow field that you have kind of pigeonholed yourself down. Whereas if you're becoming, it's about, you're regularly engaging with material, picking up knowledge, understanding all the facets, because with lots of wide-ranging practice, you can come across things that you hadn't expected. And a lot of the time with interviews, it's not about having prepared and rehearsed every single possible question. It's more about you've had exposure to all different things that have made you think about it enough before that you're not stumped by something that will come up unexpectedly. So it's kind of when you again, to use that analogy of music, like say for example a jazz artist has done so many scales that whatever comes up in the improvisation of jazz, they can just use their core skills to navigate their way through it, versus, like I say, there's someone who's just learnt that one song, and then when something comes up that they hadn't prepared exactly, they they kind of lose their way. I don't know if that's a good analogy. I don't know if you like that, let me know in the chat if you think yes, that's a good analogy. But I think that's kind of just, I kind of just thought of that on the spot, but I think that's pretty representative of what I'm getting at. Okay, how do you balance schoolwork and extracurriculars? So this is what I'm talking about with the getting things on autopilot. So things should take low mental energy to. So if you use that 4-phase approach and you have things set up, all you need to do is just turn up to them regularly, and you don't have to think about it. So then once you know that, then you can plan around those things. Are UCAS points relevant for medicine? Well, you need certain grades, so yes. UCAS is scrapping personal statements next year. What effect will this have on the medical application process? So there's been a lot of backlash about the proposition to get rid of personal statements. So I think that they might go back on that decision. Maybe, who knows? But essentially what they're going to do is break it down into what they're proposing is to break it down into questions, and the principles will still apply. And all they're really doing is making it, they're suggesting that it makes it fairer to break it down into questions. So really what I imagine they'll do is that they will format the questions in the way that they would like to have the personal statement laid out. So that means that people who maybe don't have the same sort of help as other people who know what they're talking about, that they don't go off and write a ridiculous essay about, I don't know, something that's completely unrelated to what they want to see in a personal statement. So I think that really, even if they do go ahead with this plan, all that they will do is have essentially the personal statement, what they want to see in a personal statement, broken down into 5 questions. Okay, I'm going to take one more question. And okay, no one likes, I don't think anyone likes the improv jazz analogy. Maybe Jessica, I don't know if that was helpful. Okay, so let me take one more. So if you are doing a course that is not related to medicine while applying for medical schools, will your application be negatively affected? So it really depends what you're doing and how you're kind of using that time. But it's more about how you present that. So really you need to show that you are making steps towards gaining the experience and the exposure. You may have taken a wrong turn, or you may have taken something that you realize, actually, I don't like. And like from my exposure, I realized that I want to go into medicine. And that's absolutely fine, but you just need to have good reasons why you want to do it now. and really a good demonstration that you are putting in the work to show to yourself and to others that you want to go into that profession. So yeah, it's more about going forward and what you're doing now. Right, let's leave it there. So like I say, if you want some free resources, check out the website. There's also the YouTube channel, the newsletter. There's so much stuff. If you do want our individual help, whether it's to get you over the line with interviews and, you know, in the next few months go towards becoming that kind of person. But like I say, if you're applying next year, really now is the time to get started. It's really, really important. Oh, thank you. You like the analogy. Good. It's really important now to start laying the groundwork and setting the wheels in motion for you to do well. And if you'd like our help with that, then absolutely fine. Like I say, you can apply to the program. But otherwise, I wish you the best of luck with your applications. We'll be doing more of these talks, and especially around UCAT time. I'll be giving you some of the fundamentals, but you know, if you really want to get that icing on the cake, cherry on top stuff, I just recommend that you join our program where we're getting lots of people in. But otherwise, yeah, look, thank you for coming today, and I really look forward to seeing how you get on. Please leave comments in the YouTube videos. As you can see, I always answer them, and I always get back to you, and love to hear how everyone's doing and whether you're finding things useful. So yeah, speak to you soon. All right, take care, guys. Bye.